This video is brought to you by Sun King Discs. Go to sunkingdiscs.com for a full selection of disc golf merchandise from all the major brands. What's up, everybody? Welcome to my review of the Paul Mcbeth Hades by Discraft. This is the newest driver in the Paul Mcbeth lineup in the ESP plastic. These are the prototype run. Big thank you to my friend Chris Caulfield for sponsoring this video. He sent me both of these to test and review, and I really appreciate his support. Chris has been a tremendous friend to me and the channel over the years, and supported me in a number of different ways that I really appreciate. So thank you very much, Chris. And also, if you guys are interested in purchasing some of these, check the link in the description to go to sunkingdiscs.com, where you can pick these up for yourself. Depending on when you see this video, I can't guarantee stock levels or anything along those lines, but I know as of the time recording it that a new run, a new restock should be on the way very soon. So let's get into the review. Let's take a look at both of them, and then I'll just pick one to finish the review with. This one is gorgeous. Love the way this one looks. 12.6, -3, and 2. And I would say those are pretty spot on for my testing. I don't have any major issue with those numbers. They seem to be pretty accurate for the most part. And it's always going to fluctuate based on the individual disc that you end up with. This one might actually be a little bit more stable, but probably represents that glide number a little bit better. Taking a look at the bottom here, you can see the beautiful swirly ESP plastic. Really good looking stuff. And this one is marked 170 to 172, as is this one here. This one seems to maybe have a touch more dome to it. Let's see if we can see that. Yeah, I think this one has a little bit more of a dome to it. It doesn't really pop per se. Oh, I don't know. This one actually pops a little more. Similar. Very similar overall. There are really no huge differences that I can see with these two discs, but we did seem to notice that this dark purple one, I believe, was the one that seemed to be going a little bit farther. It just pushed a little more, had a little bit more float to it, I guess, and was getting consistently getting just a little bit more distance than the other one when thrown back to back in similar ways. And you're going to see all the flight footage later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. But really beautiful discs. And you really can't complain. I mean, the ESP plastic feels nice, and it will get better over time. It kind of adds grip as you throw it, and some of the oils from the machine kind of get worked in. Yeah, it just really starts to feel better and better over time. Grippier, and really nice feel in the hand. Good flexibility to it. Good durability. Takes a while to break in, but it's not nearly as durable as something like Z plastic in my experience. But overall, yeah, one of the better plastic types on the market. And this one is almost certainly destined to get dyed. So stay tuned to my Instagram if you're interested. Maybe I could dye this one up and sell it to somebody as a fundraiser for the channel. Let's take a look at this guy. There are your flight numbers again, as we talked about. The kind of meaningless Discraft flight number. I don't need to go into that again. I just don't understand why they continue to use that. It's a little bit strange. And let's take a look at the profile a little closer before we start comparing it to other things. So pretty much everything about this disc reminds me of my Thrashers. Anybody who follows the channel knows that I throw Thrashers as my main distance driver and have done so for the last couple years. And this disc, by all kind of measures, is very similar. It's understable, but it's not so flippy that you can't throw it. You can put power onto it. You can get good distance out of it. It's got a relatively similar design and feel. It's all very similar to the Thrasher in my experience, and I will be putting it up next to a Thrasher in just a second. First of all, let's start with, since I have it at hand, this Star Destroyer, just as a quick comparison. It's a Ricky Star Destroyer from one of the early runs of that mold. And here you go. You can see the Destroyer is a little bit sharper, I would say, and a little bit more squared off on the Hades. There's a look from the other side as well. As a quick comparison, as I like to do, we also have this Zeus. This is a prototype Zeus, also previously reviewed here on the channel, which is the more stable to overstable version of kind of similar. These layer quite well, which I like. I think that's a smart move, and definitely much more similar in flight to a Destroyer. So let's put it up next to that, and you can see the design a little bit more similar to the Destroyer as well, where it's got a little bit more of that kind of turned down edge here, a little bit sharper point, where the Hades has a little bit more of a kind of squared off lead edge there. But there it is next to relatively flat prototype Zeus. And this is a prototype Thrasher, which is one that I don't think I've thrown. It's relatively new, so it'll give you the best look at the profile without having any wear on it. Let me switch that over to see if I can get it to glow a little bit less, a little bit further away from the light. So hopefully that is focusing, although I don't think it's doing a great job. My camera's having a little bit of trouble with this. But you can see pretty similar. There's not a huge amount of differences there, but definitely some noticeable differences. Also bear in mind this is the prototype of the Thrasher, so I have no idea if they really changed the mold and stuff, but I do know that these stiff prototype runs are much more stable than a lot of the other runs of Thrasher that you're going to run into, but since it's new and it hasn't been thrown, I thought that would be a good one to put next to the Hades for comparison. But all in all, pretty similar vibe in terms of the feel, although, yeah, not exactly the same. So, I love the feel. It feels great. No issues there whatsoever. If I wasn't already throwing the Thrasher, there's a good chance this disc would end up in my bag, but since I throw Thrashers and I layer them, there's really no need for it because they overlap way too much. But all in all, it's a great feeling disc. This one seems to be more stable than the average ESP Thrasher that I've tested. I will say that. So it's a little bit more similar to the flight of like a Big Z or a slightly broken in Z Thrasher. So, let's talk about the flight of this thing overall. Great disc. I think this is probably the best disc out of the Paul Mcbeth lineup so far for kind of amateur players. The Luna is great, don't get me wrong, and probably the best disc overall out of the lineup. It's selling amazingly still, and tons of people have switched to them for throwing and for putting. It's a great disc, no issues with the Luna. But in terms of drivers especially, and for lower arm speed players, I think this is definitely the winner. It is a really, really tremendous flyer. You're going to see even for James, he throws considerably farther than I do with more speed. With his hyzer flip throwing style, he gets amazing flights out of this thing, and it's still really controllable. We had almost no issues with it really getting squirrely, kind of rolling over too much accidentally, or anything along those lines. It's neutral enough that you can know you can control it and get it to fly on different angles, but you have to play for that natural turn. If you throw it flat and level and hard, it's going to move to the right naturally, so you kind of can play for that. Be a great roller disc for any kind of like intermediate level player and above. Great all-around driver for those players that can handle a 12 speed. And it's a really manageable distance driver for the average player. Again, that's one of the reasons why I love the Thrasher so much. You guys know I don't have a huge arm, but it's something that I can stretch easy distance out of. It's forgiving, and the fact that it doesn't really want to completely rip over accidentally unless I really do terrible things with my throw. If you throw smooth, especially if you start it on hyzer, you're going to get a nice straight flight out of this thing without having to worry about it too much, but it's not overstable at all, where it's going to like come out of your hand and dump out to the left. Big glide, big distance for average players. I think we're seeing Paul use this thing for rollers and for long turnovers and like hyzer flips and stuff. So it's definitely something that can function for other players, for bigger arms and all that stuff. But for players kind of in and around my skill level, almost an ideal distance driver for us in the kind of amateur arm speed. Started on a little hyzer, let it flip up and go. You can get it to hold a turnover. You can definitely get it down on a roller. It's very versatile. But yeah, a really great, controllably understable distance driver that will get good flights with good distance. One of my favorite releases from Discraft in quite a while. We very much enjoyed the testing of these. As I alluded to earlier, the dark purple one seemed to be a little bit, I don't remember if it was more stable or what, but it was just going a little bit further every time we threw it. Just that hair, I don't know, 10, 15 feet or something. But it seemed to like consistently push out a little bit extra distance out of this one, just based on the shape. As you guys know, with them running so many different versions of these discs, like they're doing so many different runs. I mean, this is considered a prototype run, but they must have done multiple runs based on how many of them are out there and on the market. And there's going to be a lot of fluctuation in there. And I think we're seeing as disc golf continues to grow, and Discraft as well in particular, as it continues to get more and more popular and more discs are getting pumped out and sent out to all the retailers and everything, you're just going to see more variation and less consistency in the molds. It's just kind of the nature of the game. There's only so consistent it can be. So I'm sure you can find some definite variations in there. We for sure noted that with the Zeus, the prototype Zeuses. I had 2 or 3, and they all flew differently based on their shape. I'm sure you'd find similar results with the Hades, but these 2 that we tested, fantastic discs that I would recommend to basically any player looking for an understable distance driver that's still controllable and accurate with good glide and good distance. That is my review on the Paul Mcbeth Hades. Definitely a solid disc. Thank you once again to Chris Caulfield for sponsoring this video. Thanks to our friends at Sun King Discs for all of their support as well. Check the link in the description and you can get one of these for yourself. I will check you all very soon. Thank you once again to all of my Patreon supporters as well. For as little as $2 a month, you can support me and be listed as a financial contributor, as a member of the Disc Golf Nerd Patreon support team here on my channel. I love and appreciate all the support from everybody. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel for future content, and I'll talk to you very soon. Cheers. Thank you so much for watching, and big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like to see your name listed in the credits of all of my videos, go to patreon.com/discgolfnerd.